Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Hawkeye Episode 5. So, now we of course know that Belova is in this episode, and she is to give us a backstory of what had happened to her in this episode. We not only have that, but then we have meaningless dialogue that is to just eventually go to the end of this episode, where there's a clickbaiting thing to keep you interested in this show. And really, it's just like so many people have already predicted that clickbaiting thing, and they were correct. So, Disney writers are freaking lazy, in all honesty. Um, just saying the truth, like these shows are just really worth you going and finding some bootlegged app to go on and just like, I'm gonna go and find this bootleg thing so I can not have to pay a subscription for this, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it at the end of all of this. And so it's just me being honest. So with that said, I think that's all I have really to say about this episode, because we have a tiny bit of action in this episode, but that's about it. Uh, really, we just have this kind of like, hey guys, if you didn't remember any Black Widow stuff from the Black Widow movie, probably check it out now if you can conveniently can. If for whatever reason you have any number of things that are to be a thing that you have to go and look back on, maybe a Netflix series at some point, go ahead and do that now, because it's about that customary time yet again to go into that double five time territory, because it's about that time yet again to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this episode. So, very beginning of the episode, we have to go on and figure out where the heck has Belova been since the Black Widow movie. So, Belova had gone on to meet this girl named Anna, who is more worried about a $20,000 rug than people coming in and murdering her. So, we have both Belova and some widowed girl named Sonia, who is to come in there with their tight clothes and all to go and antidote Anna. If you don't know what I mean by that, go ahead and check out the Black Widow movie. I'm sure there's a number of apps that I can conveniently have you say to use to go and find that film. But go into the Black Widow review and I'll probably have a thing listed in there. If not, then go into any random review. I'm sure there's been plenty of bootleggish like things that I've mentioned through my time here. Go into like Spider-Man No Way Homes or anywhere, or not No Way Homes, Far From Home. You can like any app, any movie review. Like I say, bootlegged apps. So check those out. So after we find out that Anna doesn't need this antidote because she was not in the Black Widow game anymore, that she had gone on to retire to live her own life with some family, we end up having like Belova going, oh, all right, well, like I guess I'll just go into the bathroom and disappear for 5 years. Cause Belova ends up getting Thanos snapped. She appears back into Tony Snap, and so now she's back, and Anna is to be with her family. Weirdly, this bathroom is a completely different painted color, and so now we end up having it to where Belova is like, wait a minute, like I was gone like for I thought like 5 minutes, and you're telling me 5 years have passed, and it's like, well, yeah. And so Belova's like, oh my god, like I have to go and figure out where my sister is to go and figure out how I can like figure out what happened to her. And then we end up having the very spoilers for Black Widow if you haven't seen it. We end up, of course, having at the end of Black Widow, where Belova is to go and look upon Natasha's grave, and is to have Valentine, the girl from Seinfeld, come in. Just be like, hey, like, I'm putting together a special team with a cluster of people. You want to join? And plus, also, here's who had killed your sister. It's Clint Barton. Go ahead after him. Go get him. So now we are back into whatever is current time here. So we now have Kate, who is to make her way home from archery school, battling with Clint. And so Eleanor is asking, hey, why are you wearing your archery gear? And so now Eleanor is to have to bandage Eleanor's wounds because that seems to be the consistent thing of like, hey, we need dialogue time. Well, she has wounds. Hey, we need more dialogue time. Clinton like has like all these like sores and cuts and whatevers and like he has to go and package his elbows and like man like he good god. So Eleanor is talking to Kate, and so really a bulk of this dialogue is for Eleanor to ask, like, Kate, it's like, well, Clint knows that you're not a superhero, right? And Kate's like, well, yeah, like, he knows. And so we have it where Kate is to go on and tell her mother, it's like, well, yeah, there's something wrong with Jack's company, the Swordsman's company. So go ahead and look further into that. And so it seems that Jack is going to take the blame for something going on in that company. But I think the more and more we go into this, the further we're going to find out that Eleanor is actually the villain of this story. Because it's going to be a very, like, oh, like, shocking thing at the end of this season. When we find out that Eleanor is the real true villain all along. And it's going to be like the Harkness thing, where it's like, oh, it was Harkness all along. Woo, yeah, that stupid song that they ended up playing in that show. Agatha? It was Agatha all along? Whatever that song was. Anyways, so it doesn't really matter. It's not a biggie. So we eventually have Jack, who ends up getting arrested by the end of this episode. And they're like, okay, shall we go to jail? So Jack is being arrested. So we then push on and have Kate go back to her place to find Belova is there going and trying to make macaroni and cheese, where she's going and pouring a bunch of Tabasco sauce, I'm assuming, all over that. And she does it after Kate is to not want anymore. And so, like, Belova is to have this, like, pot of macaroni and cheese that she's eating because she had waited too long for Kate to arrive. So Belova is just making macaroni and cheese and eating it. It's like, So, really the only thing from the important thing of this dialogue is that Belova is to go and tell Kate, it's like, well, hey, I know who you are. I know who your family is. I know what your first and last name is. And if I wanted to kill you, I could have done it, like, not even when you were to be right at this door, twisting the, I could have killed you just then. Just looking at you, you could have been dead. I could have killed you at any moment, but I didn't. So now we have this argument between these two characters because Kate is to ask what Belova is here to do. And Belova is like, well, I came here to kill Clint Barton. And Kate's like, but he's a hero! And so Belova is like, well, he killed my sister. And Kate's like, well, but no, like, it doesn't matter because he still saved the world numerous times. And so Belova is just like, well, when he was the Ronin, he killed numerous numbers of people. Like, he's not really here to like protect you. He's here to protect his reputation of a murderer, a brutal murderer who has stacked numerous bodies. That is to go on and seemingly make it all around the world with all these bodies that has just been stacked. Uh, whatever. So we have this argument being like a meaningless thing, and so we go on and we have Hawkeye, who of course is to go and hang out at Grill's place, and Grill is to tell Hawkeye that he is to have the costume set up for both Kate and Hawkeye. He's like, hey man, do you want to see him? And Clint's like, not right now. Because of course not right now. Because they have to save that for the very last episode. It's Falcon all over again. It's Falcon and Winter Soldier all over again. Where you end up having these two characters have brand new costumes that you're only going to see it on the very last episode. So we then go on and have, of course, Hawkeye going and calling his wife yet again to go on and talk about more things of his past and so on and so forth. And they end up going and talking about the big guy, which immediately a lot of people thought it would be the Hulk, because remembering the word the big guy usually references the Hulk, but different big guy altogether. And there has to be a whole reason for that Rolodex watch being a thing in this show. Because I was like, oh, so like they had gone on to say that there's a certain character that's going to appear on the show, and lazy writing is to be the one for the win here. So we go on, and we of course have Clint going on and is to want to talk to Echo. He is to send a message through an arrow telling the Tracksuit Mafia like that they want to meet up. And so now we have the Tracksuit Mafia going on with Echo to meet at this location. And so Ronan is to, of course, appear and take easily out all these Tracksuit Mafia-like guys. And then he's also going to Echo. And we also had Clint going and talking to Laura and how things are really escalating here. That we have a Black Widow who is to be called to possibly take down Clint, and somebody had flipped the bill for this. So Clint is realizing how, like, he's probably not going to get home for Christmas, that he's probably going to end up dead at the end of this. And so everybody place your bets if Clint is going to die by the end of this show, and if people would be okay with Clint being dead in this show, because technically he's been grooming his apprentice barely for 6 episodes, or going into 6 episodes. And so really that's all this actually is that Clint is probably going to die here because Jeremy Renner is going on to do other things. Obviously, he is to have a new TV show out while doing this one. And so, like, do we really think that there's going to just be him, like, not going on and dying here, getting killed off here, is what we have to naturally assume. But anyways, so Ronan is going off and easily taking down these Tracksuit Mafia guys because it's Ronan, it's not Hawkeye. Debate that in the comments if that you want. No, it was Hawkeye the whole time. It's Hawkeye dressed as Ronan. It's Ronan. He's wearing the costume because he ends up taking it from the locker to put it on and go against Echo. And so now Hawkeye is to reveal that he's Ronan and is to go on and tell Echo, it's like, hey, if you go after me, if you go after my family, if you go after anything, I will kill you. Because again, Echo is to have a spin off of a show from this. So Echo's not going to die here. Like, when immediately we have this scene, I'm like, this is such a waste. Because I'm thinking immediately, Echo's not going to die. So, because they've already told us there's going to be an Echo show. So, like, everything is to basically be, like, ruined for you. God dang it, Marvel, with your releases and saying, like, oh, we're going to do an Echo show. Isn't that great? Yeah, you kind of ruined this show for us, in all honesty. Because you have to, like, have something to announce, because when DC does a fandom, you have to go on and, like, well, I guess we should be releasing a bunch of content, right? After the fact? God, that is so stupid that Marvel has to go and like, well, I guess we should release a lot of stuff because DC did it. Like, they're basically copying them, and I wish that Marvel would just release their own stuff in their own good time instead of waiting till DC releases something and then they feel like they have to rebuttal. It's garbage because they've now done that twice. But like really, I think for Marvel, they're like, well, we don't really have to do it, but I guess since DC is consistently doing it, like I guess we have to piggyback from them like a week later and release our stuff. We have to have something to just counterbalance that whole fandom thing. So we have Clint going and talking to Echo, and he's talking in sign language. And so we eventually have it where Echo later on is talking to Kazi. And so Echo is to like get bandaged up by Kazi, and he's like, oh, thank God that you're okay. And so eventually Echo is to go on and talk to Kazi and say, it's like, well, hey, like, the night that my father died, you weren't there. And so there's something suspicious about that. Like, you knew something. And Kazi is to just not really have an answer there. So it's like, he knew. Like, he knew that someone was going to get killed. So now we go on and we have, of course, Kate is to go on and consistently be calling Clint about Belova, just freaking eating up more time, just sending him 30 different messages about Belova. And like we have her just saying all kinds of crap. And I'm just waiting for Clint to just be like, oh yeah, I blocked you and I deleted you because like I knew you were going to be that person that was going to like continue to call me. So, and before also Clint was going on to go and fight Echo as Ronan, he went to the monument that shows all the names of all the Avengers who assembled to defend the city. And he's going on and saying like, well, I'm sorry, Nat, like, but I have to do this. Because supposedly Natasha was to talk to Hawkeye to no longer put on the Ronin costume anymore. But, like, I don't really see that in the movie. Like, I don't, like, all we get to see between Natasha and Ronan as far as exchanges goes is, like, don't give me hope. It's like, I wish I would have given you hope sooner. Like, that's the only real exchange we get there. But I guess, like, Natasha probably for the whole Ronan thing was like, well, hey, like, if Hawkeye was to be Ronin, his life was to possibly end. And so Natasha having Hawkeye be Hawkeye is to say that he is to have hope and that he is to go on and be a much more safer person that is going to, like, instead of going and arrowing his way through people, he's going to go and pick like a grappling hook arrow to kind of defend himself or get away from somebody. And whereas Ronan, all he has is his sword, so he's probably going to face whatever he is to do and probably die, which he'll be fine, which he would be fine with being Ronan when that whole thing ended up happening there. So we finally have Clint going and meeting up with Kate because Jack is getting arrested, and so Kate is to go on and uh, tell Clint because Eleanor was to be seen with some guy, and so now Kate is going to bring this thing to attention of Clint, because evidently Belova is following Eleanor, and so we end up finding this picture of both Kingpin and Eleanor in the same frame of things, saying that Kingpin could either possibly kill Eleanor, Kingpin could be working with Eleanor, or Kingpin could be like, oh, I just so happened to be there, and like, what a small world, right? So, so Clint was to say, it's like, well, hey, like this is the big guy that I was worried about this whole entire time. That I knew eventually this guy was going to show up, and it's like, oh, like Clint knew that Kingpin was going to be in this scenario, and I'm like, you know what? Actually, this does technically, from all of the Daredevil stuff, this actually does fit in pretty well for Kingpin to come in here. Like when really looking at it, like I can be okay about this, but I'm assuming like immediately everybody's gonna be like, well, where's Daredevil? Where's Daredevil? I wanna see where he is. And I think we're probably gonna get that slowly but surely. I don't think we're probably going to get this. I don't think we're gonna get a Daredevil crossover in the show. I don't think that the guy who played Daredevil originally is going to be on this show. Like, I think he's probably going to either one, have his own movie or be tied into some other Marvel thing that isn't this. I immediately justified that Daredevil would make a ton of sense to be on the She-Hulk show and not this one. And so Kingpin being put on here actually makes a lot of sense. They actually have the Daredevil Kingpin here, which I could be okay with that. But now I think it would make a lot more sense if Daredevil was on the She-Hulk show, because She-Hulk is technically a lawyer, and like Daredevil and She-Hulk can play off one another to make for a very interesting show. And but yeah, so we'll see where Daredevil does make it into the MCU. And it'll be interesting to see if they ever incorporate other Netflix shows. Like Punisher would have made a lot of sense to have him in a part of the MCU somewhere for a long time now. He like the Punisher could have eventually been incorporated in some kind of Shield thing, agenda, whatever. Like they could have had him possibly in Agents of Shield at some point, because they had like Ghost Rider and like those kind of characters. So wouldn't it have been interesting to have a whole entire season where we had like the Agents of Shield versus the Punisher? Like if we were gonna have like Ghost Rider in that show, which actually was the one thing that actually got me back into Marvel Agents of Shield, was that Ghost Rider season. I didn't care about the show altogether, but I actually, my only real true interest in watching that show was just for that Ghost Rider season. And then anything else in between it, I could not give a single crap in the world about any number of those things. Um, but yeah, so that's all that I have to say about this show. Man, am I kind of wrapping these up fairly quickly just because there's not much to really like go in deep down about this. But hey, clickbaiting, Kingpin. Oh, Kingpin is probably going to be on the very last episode of this. Woohoo! Uh, a character that like is he gonna even get his hands dirty? Are we gonna actually see him throughout the whole entire show? I'm curious because like this feels like such a like he should have been in the whole season, not just like oh at the very tail end of it, but like that's the severely laziness that this show has been where it's like this should have been a thing that like should have showed up at like episode at least 3 or at the like the most hardest delay should have been episode 3 to have 3 other episodes to marinate on this character, but instead we're not getting this. We're just getting a 1 episode where it's probably going to take a crap load of time just be like, oh yeah, this Kingpin character. And then we're going to get like, oh, I guess we should wrap up this show. Come up with a convenient way to wrap up this show. And so, if anything, the only thing about this show ending is it's going to possibly present a maybe more exciting second season of Hawkeye if we go into a second season. But other than that, I could care less. I could care less. So that's what my real reaction to this is. Kingpin, woohoo! Um, like I would much rather see like Daredevil be used somewhere, or any number of any of the other characters from the Netflix series. It seems like we could justifyingly have incorporated any number of these Netflix characters in any number of things, and we couldn't have been bothered. So that's my gripe. Is like, man, like we waited until now to finally just use somebody. And all of these Netflix characters were excited to see what the possibility of being tied in the MCU, and I'm sure everybody's gonna go and like have like, oh, Daredevil, like where is he gonna be used? And I'm sure they're gonna ask the Daredevil guy that was on the Netflix show, hey man, what's your reaction on this? What are your like? Are you gonna get into the MCU somehow somewhere? Because a lot of people weirdly thinking that Charlie Cox is going to be Daredevil in No Way Home, and a lot of people are immediately thinking that. And like, I would not like him to be used in that movie because I just think it's a waste. So I'd rather have him be used in She-Hulk. So let's hope for that. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy. Oh, and Punisher, I think, would really be well used, probably in the Moon Knight show if they're gonna do that. That would make a lot of. That would be pretty cool. I would like that. Um, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Like I would say, give them their own series, but then like we really have it still where Heroes for Hire would have to happen, where it's both Iron Fist and Luke Cage. And so Jessica Jones would probably be a thing that would just keep coming in and out. And so, like, till eventually they figure out what the heck to do with Jessica Jones, maybe have her just be tied to that Heroes for Hire series and then just kind of like do something. I don't know. Figure something the heck out. But without a doubt, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.